In a vibrant city where neon signs were reflected on the wet asphalt, Isabel Tavares walked with a confident step. The streets were still buzzing with life despite the late hour. Groups of young people laughed as they left the bars, a taxi honked at a distracted pedestrian, and lively conversations erupted from the still open terraces. However, beneath this facade of normality, Isabel knew that another reality existed, a city where certain people did not have the luxury of carelessness, where a simple police check could turn into a nightmare. Has 42 years, Isabel had already built an impressive career. Renowned lawyer specializing in the defense of civil rights, she was feared by those who abused their power. Her name appeared in high-profile cases where she denounced police violence and systemic discrimination. She knew the city better than anyone. Its laws, its flaws, its injustices. That evening, after a professional dinner with colleagues, she was heading home. Dressed in a midnight blue dress that showed off her slender figure, she wore discreet heels that clicked lightly on the sidewalk. She advanced with poise, her gait reflecting a natural confidence, an inner strength forged by years of fighting for justice. But despite her confidence, she could not ignore this unpleasant feeling that squeezed her stomach. She knew that as a black woman walking alone at night, she was vulnerable. As she prepared to cross a quieter street, the dull roar of an engine caught his attention. A police car patrolled slowly, its headlights briefly illuminating his face. With a quick glance, she saw 3 figures inside. His instinct told him that they had spotted her. The car slows down. For a brief moment, she hoped they would move on. But she knew better than anyone that some police officers did not seek to protect, but to impose their power, especially over people like her. The door opened suddenly. 3 men came out loudly, their attitude marked by smugness. Their midnight blue uniforms seemed to blend into the darkness, but their faces were illuminated by the streetlights. They were young, arrogant, and wore that smug smile she had seen too many times in courtrooms. One of them, a man with a sly look and a shaved head, moved forward slightly, hands placed on his belt as if preparing for a confrontation. His badge read, Agent Morel. "Hey, lady," he said in a mocking tone. "Where are you going like this, all alone at this hour?" Isabel held back a sigh. She had experienced this scene too many times. She knew they weren't trying to enforce the law, but to assert their power, to test how far they could go. She looked into Morel's eyes and replied in a calm but firm voice. "At my house. A problem, agent?" Morel gave a smirk, the kind of smile that announced that he was enjoying this little game. "We're just doing a check, ma'am. Do you have your papers?" She knew controls like this by heart. The excuse of the routine check, which was never one. But she knew that refusing would give them an excuse to escalate the situation. Slowly, she opened her bag and handed over her ID card. Morel took it, looked at it barely, then raised a falsely intrigued eyebrow. "Lawyer, huh?" he said, articulating each syllable as if the word was having difficulty passing his throat. "He earns a good living. But are you sure it's not fake?" Behind him, his colleagues burst out laughing. Isabel's heart sped up slightly, but her face remained impassive. "If you're done, I'll go." She reached out for her card, but Morel didn't move. He stared at her with a glint of challenge in the eyes. "You are in a hurry, and well-dressed." His tone had changed. A silence settled. "You look like you just came out of a gala," continued Till, his gaze sliding down her dress. She felt the tension rise a notch. She knew where this led. She had litigated too many cases like this not to understand. "Come on, turn around a little so we can admire your outfit." Isabel's blood freezes, but she does not complain. She opened her mouth to protest, but Morel was faster. With a sudden and provocative gesture, he grabbed the fabric of her skirt and pulled it up slightly, briefly exposing her legs. A general burst of laughter erupted. "Well, it looks like Madam Lawyer likes to show off." "Lanca un des agents, hilare." The humiliation was instantaneous. Isabel didn't let anything show. His face remained impassive, but in it, everything was boiling. The humiliation was bitter, But she knew that misdirected anger was a double-edged sword. Faced with these men who only sought to provoke, belittle and dominate, she refused to be their victim. His voice, slow and sharp like a sharp blade, split the air. You have just committed serious professional misconduct, Agent. I advise you to think about what you have just done. A flash of surprise flashed fleetingly in Morell's eyes, but he immediately recovered. He raised his hands in the air, adopting a falsely innocent tone, a smug grin stretching his lips.
Oh, Madame is angry.
He cast a mocking look at his colleagues, who were snickering behind his back. Are you going to sue us? The other police officers exchanged knowing smiles. They were convinced they had won. But Isabel wasn't just anyone. She moved forward with a slow but sure step, approached Morell slightly, and stared him straight in the eyes. That's exactly what I'm going to do. His tone hadn't raised a decibel.
No outbursts, no tears, no hysteria.
Just one cold truth stated with an unshakable certainty. She turned on her heel and walked away. Without hurrying, her heels clicking softly on the sidewalk.
Behind her, the laughter burst forth again.
Loud, arrogant laughter, but which sounded false. They didn't know yet what hell they had just plunged into. As soon as she returned home, Isabel didn't waste a second. She sat at her desk, her mind as sharp as a blade, and launches offensive.
Chincheta first step. Mobilize your network.
She sent a message to his colleague and friend, Mark Dufresne, investigative journalist specializing in cases of police brutality. In a few minutes, he replied with a simple, "We'll take care of it." Pushpin's second step. Collect the evidence. She knew that in this city, every street, every intersection was under surveillance. She contacted a cybersecurity expert, who accessed images from the municipality's cameras. And there, the evidence was overwhelming. The images were clear, capturing every moment of the attack. Small Blue Diamond Agent Morell pulling on her skirt. Small Blue Diamond complicit after other police officers. Small Blue Diamond his dignified departure, contrasting with their arrogance.
Chincheta third step. Hit where it hurts.
Has 3 o'clock in the morning. Mark published the story. An explosive article, embellished images from the scene and with a title that made the city tremble. Fire a renowned lawyer humiliated by the police. How far will the abuses go? The article detailed. Heavy checkmark the unacceptable behavior of the agents. Heavy checkmark Isabel's profile, a woman who has dedicated her career to defending victims of police abuse.
Visto grueso negro video evidence. Accessible via direct link.
At 6 in the morning, Twitter went up in flames. The hashtags #JusticePorIsabel and #ObusPolicier began to trends #1. Newspaper The biggest national newspapers took over the matter. Television news channels broadcast the images in a loop. Balance-scale civil rights associations called for immediate sanctions. The hype was so violent that the mayor himself was forced to speak out. Has 8 hours, the town hall published an official press release. We strongly condemn this behavior and have ordered an immediate investigation. Has 9 o'clock, the police headquarters announced. Warning, the police officers involved were suspended as a precautionary measure. Has midday, Morell had become the most hated man in town. His photo was circulating everywhere. Social networks were saturated with comments calling for his removal.
We don't want these kinds of men in uniform anymore.
Who protects the population from police officers like him?
Justice for Isabelle.
The same evening, Morell's home was besieged by journalists, and his wife deleted his social media accounts in the face of threats and insults. A few weeks later, in a crowded courtroom, Isabel Tavares stood facing the 3 officers, her cold, assured gaze piercing the tense atmosphere of the courtroom. The air was heavy, saturated with the tension of the moment, but Isabel did not waver. She looked like a woman ready to fight for more than just her dignity, but for that of all those who, like her, had been broken under the invisible blows of injustice. His hands, although slightly trembling, rested firmly on the backrest, his face lit with indomitable determination. The 3 police officers seemed unsettled, nervous, as if the entire room could swallow them up. Morel, the main accused, once a haughty and arrogant man, seemed to have lost his splendor. His gaze, which was once full of confidence and contempt, had softened under the weight of the overwhelming evidence. Isabel's gaze, cold and implacable, had made him a dejected man. His colleagues, once full of arrogance and disdain, now avoided meeting the eyes of the civil party, gradually realizing the seriousness of their actions. When Isabel spoke, the room fell silent. His voice, calm but carrying unwavering conviction, resonated in the room. This trial is not only about my humiliation, but that of all women victims of police abuse. It's time for justice to prevail. His words struck like a clap of thunder, passing through the hearts and minds of the listeners. She spoke not only for herself, but for all those whose voices had been silenced, for all those who, daily, suffered the violence of injustice. Isabel knew that she was the symbol of a larger fight, that of women, of minorities, of those whom the system had long ignored. His courage, dignity, and perseverance were the common thread of hope for change. The trial dragged on, but with each moment, Isabel seemed to gain momentum, becoming a beacon for those who had long doubted whether justice could ever be done for them. His lawyers, with uncompromising expertise and determination, presented overwhelming evidence. The case, more solid with each testimony, highlighted repeated and systematic behavior of abuse of power. With each word, justice seemed to come a little closer. When the final verdict fell, it was like a collective gasp. Morel was dismissed, his colleagues sanctioned. The court's decision went beyond the individual. It marked a turning point in the fight against police abuse. The case set a precedent, and the repercussions would be profound. Strict reforms were imposed against police abuse. Training on conflict management and ethics was made compulsory in the police. An independent commission to monitor the conduct of police officers was established, and a vast national human rights awareness program was launched. Isabel, after weeks of battle, had won, not only for herself, but for all those who had suffered in silence. This verdict was not only a legal victory, it was a social, political, and symbolic victory. Isabel had transformed a humiliation into a revolution. She had made her pain a weapon, her fight a cause. She had shaken the foundations of a system that believed it could crush her, and with her, thousands of others had been heard.